Support network. Alzheimer's support nationally, that's research and development for people that wanna give. This is a local.
Yeah.
Grassroots.
Yeah.
Husband and wife started it and they're 40 years in Naples.
Mhm.
They have what they call kindred spirits.
Mhm.
And that meets once a week.
Mm.
And this is for families to just sit and talk about
Mhm.
brain change. How do you communicate? What kind of language do you use?
Yeah.
And all of that.
So-
They're brilliant.
Yeah, our situation isn't dementia or Alzheimer's, it's all
Okay.
things physical
All things physical.
and, you know. Just trying to.
Yeah,
look at
yeah,
that.
it's an.
And I see that, I said to Rick, it's isolating.
Mm,
My two outings a week are Sunday morning church and here. This is it. And if they weren't here, I wouldn't be here.
yeah, you need the respite.
It's a handle,
Mm.
a big thing to handle. So.
I wonder what percentage of our congregation is in a similar situation.
I see that.
I bet it's
I
would
bet
be
it's big.
shockingly high.
I bet it is
It's
too.
not talked about, it's not talked about that much, right?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, if you put out feelers, how would you do it? Would you publicize it big or would you just quietly ask people? I mean, I don't know what other people's circumstances.
Survey to ask, you know.
Pants that they pass out.
No, not that, a survey.
Okay.
Everybody gets a survey and you fill it out.
How many are doing that? I think it can be very simple. How many
Yeah.
are in a caregiving situation?
Right,
How many would be interested in getting together regularly to support? I mean, it'd be pretty simple. It would be large. I would not restrain that one.
Well,
Cause I think it would be a larger group and,
I would think so.
It's like-
Giving is many things. It's for many different types of things. It's not to restrict it to one thing.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, some of my friends were looking for groups and all they kept telling them was Zoom. I
Yeah.
feel if I would read a group of something me, I wanna be in a room with people. I need energy, I need support, I need hugs,
or something
Right.
said.
I need
Facebook.
reassurance.
Right.
Do not
Zoom
do
is, for me is nothing. It doesn't work.
Or do not-
I think if we did a group too, I think it would be essential to open it up to the community. There's not a lot of churches. United Church of Christ does have it. And it's open to the community. You don't have to be a member of their church.
And I think that's fair.
So,
I think that's more than
Yeah.
fair, because that would also maybe indirectly, that person would say, you know what, maybe I wanna come to this church.
Exactly.
But that's not the reason we would be doing it. We would be
Right,
doing
right.
it because support
It's
is
a fringe,
beneficial.
Right.
fringe benefit, yeah.
Yeah.
all right, so, we got that done. Thank you.
Unexpected business.
Oh, we talked about this for a while.
Sorry, I.
No,
I
we-
went
that's
out.
not
I looked
really-
around.
No,
that's
I would've,
Yeah.
That's not
I
mandate.
was thinking to start a group.
yeah, but it should be through Julie, it's coordinated in the sense of,
Uh-huh.
one group in essence complements the other, so a caregiving group supplements the grieving group. Yeah, so those are, you know.
Sure.
So today, I'm glad you're here, that was the bad thing about last week, that I hadn't, planned on was that we'd have continuity until I took a vacation at the end of July, so I'm glad that you're here.
What's that you're here?
So, yeah, and some of us got here at 10 o'clock or whatever. Even though we've been meeting at 10:30 for about 4 years, right? That's right,
Okay.
that's right.
For all the times of those moments.
Okay, so a couple announcements I think you'll be interested in. First of all, we're still in contact with Matt. He sends his greeting. Melissa's done a great job of staying in touch with him. You can give more details here, Melissa, but I think he's doing well. That's my sense is with Julie. He's getting a little bit of help. He might even get Social Security finally. And by the end of the month, the judge at least will
Take a look.
take a look.
Yeah.
But come on, my goodness. And he's lived off the grid for a long time and now you gotta get back on the grid. And
That's a difficult part,
That's-
right?
that's-
But Julie's improving and he's taking excellent care of.
she
her.
got down to a little like 105 pounds. Things were not going
He's trying
well.
to do her up.
Yep, she's back up to one. He said something like
Yeah.
120s or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
that's good. That's because he's feeding her very well.
He's not making any money. So that has not gone well, but it's almost biblical the way he talks about it. He says, I'm doing fine. I have enough to make it, which is,
Just make it. Right.
not anything. I think he's, but he's taking, most of his life he's taking care of Julie, which is, this caregiver thing, that's what,
Yeah.
struck me. So anyway, anything else you would add there?
No, he'd like to, get a job that for himself, be his own boss, not
Yeah.
be under somebody else. He wants to be his own.
His dad was a hippie and, a committed hippie,
Okay.
not just for a couple of years, I mean, off the grid.
But not committed to it.
He's committed, his dad was committed and Matt's been infected by that lifestyle
Yeah.
of the freedom of doing your own thing,
Right.
of being your own boss.
Being your own.
Yeah, so, yeah, but that's not necessarily a hippie thing, but
He's a good guy.
so in any case, I don't, I was encouraged by the note. On a sad note, Pedro Wassemer, who some of you know, he died this week.
Oh,
So that
and on the
was
prayer list forever.
When did that happen, Mr. Rick?
Sunday night.
Oh, wow.
Um,
They were the ones who expedited us to have the dinner for Pastor Steve at that beautiful, club.
Correct, right, at
He
the
and
yacht
his
club,
wife Gussie.
yeah, at Naples Club, and, so,
When did he die? Saturday?
Sunday night. Actually, in a very romantic sort of way, I should say, he'd been struggling for a long time, multiple surgeries, and then, things just start, wearing out. And, he wanted to go back home. And it didn't look like he would ever be able to sustain, even with help, life in his home. And they made a pretty dramatic decision after he was at the hospital this last time to take him to home. Which was a risky move, I would say, but still one that he wanted. So he came home, he was with his 3 kids, they happened, Jennifer lives much of the year in Europe and Peter moves around but they were all there. They all brought him back home and he was in his house for 90 minutes and died.
Oh.
So that's where he wanted to be. And that's who he wanted to be with whom he wanted to be with his kids at his home, surrounded by all the memories of Gussie. And that's not me just, the kids know that, I mean, it's just so obvious that was his internal.
Do you believe people can
Look.
hold
Yeah.
out and wait?
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
The will and the spirit are pretty powerful, even when the rest of the body's giving
And
up.
he was so in love with her still, because when one day he had the flowers on the altar and I stopped and talked to him. And he told me how many years they were married, and I said to him, I could see you still very much love her. Oh, no, he definitely. was.
Very much.
He mourned for her very much.
Very much, and that's a part of the house was Gussie.
Mm-hmm.
That's where his memories, they built that together. So, yeah, although he did hear the sermon on Sunday, so, his dog. He liked that sermon about breasts, so that was, it's very Cuban. That was good. So August the 9th will be the funeral. And I think that will be well attended here. He had a lot of friends and family, close family, and so in a way, a good death. The way
he wanted
Yeah.
with the way.
Yeah. But you see this a lot when people are dying, they'll wait for Christmas, they'll wait for their birthdays, they just get that internal strength. To
And they
make
wait
it,
for someone that they love, they wanted to see them. Like my grandmother waited for my mother to come from New York to Kentucky. And after my mother was there a short time, she died. And she was having a hard time.
yeah, it's, yeah,
Same thing as my mother. We were on vacation, and she wouldn't let us come back. As soon as we did, then about 2 days later, she died.
yeah.
Well,
Just some-
Karen threatened her. She said, don't you dare talk to her.
She obeyed.
I know the worst.
That's called tough love.
That's why we have so many deaths, I think, after Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holiday.
they hung on.
And Sometimes they'll try to make an anniversary or, you know, whatever it might be, but they've got a goal in their mind, okay, I know I'm dying, but boom, and then they set their mind to, yeah, so, anyway, that's why I meant by romantic. All right, we're going to close part one here today, and two, you notice what the chapter title of part one is. There's something more going on here. And I love that title, because all the things we've reviewed so far are forcing us to always ask that question behind every text. There's more going on here, right? With Moses and his moisture, of course, what's going on? Why the comment? We always have to trust the biblical authors. They are master storytellers. So when they include a detail, what's going on here? Why would they add that, right? We keep thinking it's for historical accuracy, and it's almost never for historical accuracy. It's to tell a good story. Now, it might be historically accurate, but they're just like how you would tell a story after years and years of telling, you know, like your favorite family story,
It's embellished.
and it gets better told. You know the punchlines, you know what's gonna elicit the responses, right? And it's embellished usually for a reason, and that's, if they're embellishing, why are they embellishing?
Hold your attention.
Could be attention, I mean, there's all sorts, and that's what we're always asking is, what's going on here, right? What's behind? So somebody wrote something down, it tells us a little bit about the history, behind the stories. And remember, most of this was oral for hundreds of years before it was written down in the Old Testament. The New Testament, maybe for 30, 40 years, right? Where then someone says, we gotta write this down, gotta write this down. So, stoners and swingers. There you go. Who paid Jesus's bills?
We know.
I guess I'm more and more impressed with The Chosen because Joanna plays such a prominent role. And I'd have to say, growing up, I didn't know anything about her.
Yeah.
Never thought about her,
Not
never
mentioned,
thought
really.
about who's paying the bills, never. Joanna's mentioned, obviously, I'm sure, read her name multiple times, just didn't stick. And The Chosen's done a nice job of lifting her up, where you see Mary Magdalene, the role she plays, you see Tamar, a Gentile woman, as a follower, and what that meant, right? To have Gentiles and Jews following Jesus together, the tension, a little bit that's there, how they're trying to create a new humanity, big deal. But here, the great question of who's paying 12 disciples running around, you know, and more, right, and more. Of course, the Greek word, and you've all been practicing that, so
Yeah, right.
anakephalios was Thai.
Bring the community.
Little German in its impact, but the vision of the gospel that's being painted with that one word. I like the way he draws it out, and sometimes when we do Bible study, it's a word study, and we haven't done too much of that here, but it can be very enjoyable. We had it in a sermon a couple weeks back, that a word, how often is fear used in the Bible, right? 300 sometimes, and then what does that mean when fear is used? And that would be like a Bible study. And when is fear positive? Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. When is it negative? Fear not, peace be with you, right? And we all know that. We all know there's a healthy fear and an unhealthy fear. And we all know what unhealthy fear can do to us at every level, financial, physical.
It can paralyze you.
It paralyzes you, yeah. And if we don't deal with it, our body will deal with it. Usually not well. You know, usually not well, it wears us down, it's like a pall over us, you know, if we're worried all the time. But again, he's pushing what's going on here behind the word studies, behind the storytelling, the importance of altitude, of sometimes we're gonna do that today. How do you get up on the balcony and look down over the whole forest? Well, and we don't do this really well because our whole Bible reading in church is we take a string of pearls and we take one pearl off, one story, and we're gonna tell the story of whatever this Sunday, like this parable, and we forget to say, wait a minute, the parable was meant to be read next to other parables and next to a whole storyline.
Mhm.
So we have fun with the parable, but we don't see it in its larger light, which is what we're
But
pulling.
you, Pastor Rick, I've noticed you do like bring them into, you bring it in, you mention it, so it makes me aware of it when you do your discernments.
You try, it's better to do it here because we have more time here. In a sermon, you got 15, maybe 20 if you push it, and you can make references. So I think one of the benefits of the Bible study here is I can make a quick reference on Sunday morning in a sermon, and I expect you to say, oh yeah, I know that. So it's more of a reminder.
Mm.
But if you're not doing regular Bible study,
You know,
do you catch it? And maybe you do, maybe you don't, right? So it's hard to make those references quickly, which is why then preachers don't do it. Right, because people don't like it, or people aren't picking up the things that you're mentioning, and so you stop. And then I think it degrades, I mean, it gets flatter. Right, so, smoking fire pots, we had fun with that one. Got to share our own approach to sacrifice and to barbecue. Ray will tell you, how to get it done, but I thought there were several people here who grew up on farms, so that
Yeah.
everybody had an idea of, how Abram did this. The fat closed in over the sword, interesting for left-handers, little details like that, which are really kind of interesting. They spice up any good storyteller, right? You go in, you kill the king, you're out of there.
Peace.
Every film we watch has got some dimension of being sly and pulling off a caper or whatever it might be, and here, and you have it in the Bible as well. Okay, so we want to turn the gem, page 79. I've always used, or I've often used the pearl analogy that you wear a string of pearls, and the whole idea is, first of all, it's hard if you've bought a pearl necklace, it's hard to find one where, all the pearls are real. They're not manufactured. But then you have to find beautiful pearls with the same color, with the same luster and the same size,
Yeah.
which is part of the trick of a good pearl necklace. But the whole idea is it's a necklace that's pretty, not the one pearl. And so let's take a look at turning the gem. So he goes from pearls to gems here. So he's trying to do the review like I did, right? Stoners and swingers and massive Greek words and fat closing in over a sword and pearls and pigs. We're just getting started. The rabbinic tradition, they talk about scripture having 70 faces. I love that. Love that. So when you read it, you keep turning it. And we all know this because we've heard some of these stories 50 times in church, right? And then every once in a while we'll say, oh, I've heard that. I didn't know that. I never thought about that, That is how we are meant to read scripture. It's not like, oh, I know that story.
Yeah, but.
I don't know. That's not the parables. If you say that I know that story, then someone's not telling the parable well. Because there are always curveballs. It's meant for us to keep turning and turning, because that you can keep turning it, always finding something new.
Mhm.
So again, if someone says, I know the meaning of that story, then you go, do you? That's right. Do you?
You really?
So you keep turning the gem, seeing something new each time. Especially, I think we've discovered that here often, someone will come and just add a whole nother insight about a text, and you go, wow, I just, never thought about that before. That's just great. So that's what we've been doing in the book. We've been turning the gem. We read it, we let it read us. That's a whole he says that quickly, but it's so important. The Bible is not something just that we read, it reads us. And you know this, every once in a while, we're reading the text and you go, oh, I'm in the text. I see myself. I'm the prodigal son, or I'm the good son, or whatever it might be, or
Could
whatever.
be both.
I think, and that's part of the wrestling with the text. Of course, we're both. Of course, but at any given time in my life, I might be more one than the other. And I flip back and then maybe I flip again, you know. So it's not, here it is, this is a beautiful, I've heard people say that they read the Bible literally, as if that's the best way to understand the Bible. Look at what he says. Page 80. It's not. So he's very clear. We read it literally. We read it we read it according to the kind of literature that it is. And every book of the Bible is of a different kind of literature. So you're first asking, what am I reading? Like it used to be with the newspaper. Is this just the straight reporting, front page, headlines? Is this the funny pages? Is this the sports section? Is this the opinion columns? The funny page? What am I reading? Because I have to read it according to giving it credence for what it is, not making it into something I want, which would be a historical text. Now, the great example for me growing up was when we were fighting over Jonah and the whale.
Did he really get swallowed by a whale?
Can that possibly?
Which is not
Point.
Not the point.
at all, right? And yet, man, how many conversations was I in just as a kid? Because we were fighting those we thought were attacking the Bible and its validity. So if he wasn't truly swallowed by a whale, that would prove that the Bible wasn't literally true. And then did Jesus die? I mean, you know, it was like a slippery slope.
Right.
If one thing isn't true,
This is fake and that's fake.
because we said, basically, we're saying the whole Bible is above all historical. That's its purpose, is to tell the story historically accurately. And you're going, well, is that Jonah and the whale? I mean, really? Is that what it was about? And of course, it's not. But it took us a long time to work through that. I remember. But there were other texts as well, right? You don't read it literally. What he's saying is how do you honor it? How do you respect it? How do you learn from it? How do you enjoy it? So a poem you read as a poem. You wouldn't quote biological doctrine by quoting the Psalms. So when David says, in my womb, God knew me in my womb, it's poetry, right? He's not making a doctrine about when a fetus becomes a soul, which is often how it's quoted today. So it's just like if I told my wife, you're the most beautiful woman in the world. Now, if she comes back and says, really, what's the right answer?
That's my darling.
Ray, what is the right answer? No, you can't say it to me, you know, you can't hedge your bets on that one, because she'll pick that up immediately. She says, what do you mean to you? You don't want a discussion, it's poetry, right? You want to keep it, you know, on the high, up and up, and
That's what you told Nina, right? You're the most beautiful woman in the world to me.
no, period. You're the most beautiful woman in the world. Now, she came back. That's why I tell the story. Really? I'm the most beautiful? Really? Now, you know, you got the decision to make. Okay, am I gonna have this fight? You know, now one time I did. I was a young man, I was stupid.
Fewer words.
Well, I'm trying to be poetic and she's trying to have fun, so we have fun back, right? Right. So no, of course not. I know a lot more beautiful. I'm just trying to be nice here. Even though we were kidding, it did not work.
No.
It did not.
That didn't go over well.
It didn't go over well, no, yeah, young and stupid, you learn after a while what the right answer is, and you stick to it. But part of it is you enter a poetic moment, you stay in poetry. You don't all of a sudden say, especially if she says, well, you've had other girlfriends, right? Weren't they prettier? I've seen some of their pictures, and you go,
That's beside the point.
right, that's not the, that's right. And yet, you are the most beautiful. So you get stuck if you can't stay in poetry, but also if you're in history, if you're just trying to get the facts, man. Who had that old line?
That was Webnet.
Dragnet.
Joe Webnet and Dragnet.
Yeah, that's right. Just the facts,
Just
man.
facts, man.
So then you're with the police and you report, you want the facts, you don't want the poetry. Right. Now, interestingly, when you go with humor, and the Bible has lots of humor, I think John Wells is a great example. Humor can often get, and we know this, at the truth faster than history. So instead of saying the facts about what's happening politically, comedians can have a field day telling jokes about comedians in particular, and they're telling the truth, but they're doing it in a way that's acceptable, right? I'll take a joke. In fact, politicians are supposed to be able to take jokes more than just a frontal attack, a frontal, so I like that he says we are dancing with the text. That's on page 81. You dance with it. And to dance, you have to hear the music, and then you move and respond to it. So part of what we're trying to do today, and always when we're doing, what's the music that we're dancing to? Because if you can't hear it.
And what if you're not a good dancer?
You're taking this the wrong way.
You're moving us off of poetry again.
She's ripping literally.
I have never read. Okay, let's stay in the poetry. I've never known a woman who wasn't a good dancer if she heard the music.
Me.
But you know what I'm saying? If a woman in particular, men are a little different on this one. If you hear the music, in other words, if there's a mood that you're hearing, you want to dance, whether you can or not.
Right, that's true, that's true.
Or a man, a little different. I've told this story because it was so shocking to me, where this one man wouldn't come to Bible study, we couldn't get the men to come to Bible study. And so I said, well, why don't you come? He said, there's two things, Pastor, you'll never get me to do, two things. I said, what's that? He said, dance with my wife and Bible study.
Wow.
I went, whoa,
Yeah.
but something just happened there, which was, I don't want to be embarrassed publicly. That's what he was saying. It took me a while to figure that out, but finally, he didn't want me to say, okay, let's all turn to 2 Corinthians.
Where's 2 Corinthians?
I don't know where 2 Corinthians is, and I've been in the church for 50 years. I know I should know that. I don't. I will not be humiliated. I just won't. And I'm not gonna go out and dance with my wife and do the same thing. Be humiliated publicly, where people go, he can't dance, So there's some fears that way, but my tendency is to think if you hear the music, you hear the mood, a woman will dance, a man will do other things.
Bar.
Well, now, a funeral, wedding, we said, one of the most dangerous things is to have an open bar at a funeral, because many men can't handle their emotions, and so they go there to handle their emotions, and then that can spin out of control pretty quickly, right? So there you go. But the idea is we're dancing with the text, and we get to dance our whole lives with some of these texts. They really influence us quite a lot. How about Larry in the airport? What do you think about this chapter?
Actually, I spend a lot of time in airports, and I used to make up stories about people.
Did you really?
I would watch and, looks like they're having a little fight over there, just kind of comment to myself, because, you're killing time, you spend a lot of time just sitting there, right?
Yeah.
What used to be, now every waiting area is a restaurant, and so they get you to spend money while you're waiting,
Yeah,
I figured that out.
You can see the different expressions on people's faces from a distance where somebody's coming. And all of a sudden you can look and say, oh geez, he's back there, and then they like together. But prior to that, she's just walking naturally, he's saying, that doesn't even exist, and all of a sudden there's that one, boom, it hits, and together. Amazing. It is.
So we all know this, the more of the backstory you know to anything in life, the more, yeah, the more rich, the experience. We get to do that often with our families. We get to know our family members quite intimately. We know what's going on. And then even the most subtle things that happen, subtle, nobody else will pick it up, we pick it up. The kids do something. The kids agree, the kids call you and say, after 20 years of marriage, would you like to come over to our place for Thanksgiving this year? You go, what? You're gonna cook the Thanksgiving meal, but then the backstory of, maybe they didn't wanna do it, maybe they.
The
They
wand
couldn't
is
afford to do
passed.
it.
What?
They couldn't afford to. Or have
Couldn't
the
afford to
food
do it, or there was tension in the family, or I didn't trust myself, making such a big, I've never done something like that before.
Or at your age, you don't have to do this anymore.
That's right.
I like that one.
So the backstory makes all the difference in the world, and that's part of what he's saying. The airport's great because you just see someone kissing and you go, that's normal in an airport. But it becomes special, it becomes meaningful when you know what's behind the kiss, obviously. So that's part of what we want to do is push this a little bit, and I'm gonna have you share, well, it could be one text or two texts today. Let's go with two texts. To see if we can do some of these things that we've just been reading about. If we can take the gem and turn it. These are not texts you don't know. Bob, I'm gonna ask you to come and join Melissa and Ray. So we have 3 and 3, and you'll each get a text to take as a gem and turn it. Just turn it, keep turning it, keep turning it. The danger in this is when someone says, oh, I know this is what this story means. As if it's over. So the idea here is all these texts we are to dance with over and over, keep turning them, keep turning them. And sometimes it's the text that we haven't fully understood. Sometimes it just strikes us at a moment where I can hear the text from my life differently than I've ever heard it. It's now speaking to me like it never did, just because of something happening in my own life as well. So I think we've all had Bible studies where someone shared why the text was meaningful for them at that time. And we go, wow.
But you can learn from each other that way.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the great
Right.
benefits of.
Right, the sharing, yeah.
Bible study.
That's correct. I was thinking what struck my mind about the facets of the gem. The old fashioned kaleidoscope that as kids we
Oh,
used to
yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah.
You look in them and there's never the same picture. When I went to Bob's wedding, they gave out kaleidoscopes for favors. And of course, now you can buy them very expensive. They used to be like 10 cents, 20 cents, and now you can really get a really expensive one. And I also thought about opals. Because opals are so iridescent. Like the light sparkles all, and diamonds, of course.
Diamonds that.
Yeah, but opals too, they're fiery and they catch your eye. But I thought about the kaleidoscope. With the
Last week, they invited me over and we renewed their vows. It was
Oh, did you?
one year.
Oh, that's sweet.
1 year since the wedding.
Is it already?
Wow.
That's what they told me.
They went to church on Sunday, weren't they?
What's that?
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
Really?
And Robert is very much into the metaphor of abundance. So I told him Sunday, I said, I'll want your reaction to the biblical metaphor of abundance. So it was really quite interesting to hear his response afterwards. So that's what you three are going to take the text from Sunday, Isaiah 66, just the section on breastfeeding. And remember, you're going to turn the gem. This is Isaiah 66, 5 through 13. The Lord vindicates Zion, 5 to 13. And remember, this is Isaiah 66. So. Hint, hint.
Okay, what then?
That's right, hint, hint. Last chapter in Isaiah. This is the finishing touch. This is the.
That's a close
Last one.
That's a clip. That's a clue. That's an airport. That's part of the airport story is Isaiah 66, right? And I'm saying that because I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about Isaiah 66 or all of it. I mean, a little bit, but not like you were saying it. You only have so much time and you're gonna take Luke 10, the parable of the Good Samaritan, 25 through 37.
35 to 37.
And again, what we're trying to do is actually implement what Rob Bell has described to us in his first chapter. In the first chapter, he says there's something more going on here. So what's there going on in Isaiah? What is there going on in Luke? Where's the pearl on the necklace? Right? Especially with the Good Samaritan, we almost always take that as an isolated pearl. We can almost never take that as part of the necklace. What's the necklace? And I'm gonna give you 30 minutes, then we're gonna see what insights you have. Again, reviewing Rob Bell, what has he taught us? And then, are there any words that stick out to you? Are there any phrases that, I've not seen those before, or I don't understand them, don't ask each other, is there something there that is worth looking into? Okay, we have an assignment to read it together first, again, Isaiah 66, 5 through 13, and then Luke 10, Good Samaritan, all right? And for those, you can do either one, and we're gonna take a break, we'll come back together.
I know.
At 20 up, I'm gonna give everybody 30 minutes again to practice the exercise. And you can do that with Roger as well.
I want to page, so let's hear.
Yeah, I just wanted to say hi to Ann, as you can see, Ann Erickson's here, if we can wave to Ann. We've been thinking about you, Ann, and praying for you, and so it's great to see you this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. It is good to hear your voices. And I thank you all for thinking of me and Dwight.
Wonderful. All right, so we're gonna take 30 minutes, Ann, and then we'll turn the recording back on.
Okay.
Or do you want us to just keep it on for her? Okay, just keep it on. Okay.
All right. Okay, on one occasion, after whispered in the wall, stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life?
Turn that way.
What is written in the law? How do you read it? He answered, hear the word of your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, your strength, with all your mind, and what do you name as yourself?
Let the Lord
You have answered correctly, Jesus, see your child. Do this if you will live. He wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, who is
A voice from the temple.
Lord Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho.
Before she
When
was
he was
in
laid out by robbers, they stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and threw away, leaving him half dead.
Who has heard
A
of
priest happened to be going
Who has
down
seen
the road, and when he saw the
Shall a
man,
man
he
be
was
born
born on the other
gay?
side.
Shall a
So
nation
too,
be
a
delivered
Levite,
in
when
one
he
man?
came to his place and
It
saw
is Zion.
passed by,
And as soon as Zion
but
was
the
in
Samaritan, as he
delivered
traveled,
children.
anywhere the man
Shall I
was,
open
when he saw him,
not
he
to
took
live,
pity on him.
says the Lord?
He went to him
Shall I,
and
the
bandaged
one
his
who
wounds, pouring in oil.
Says your God.
Then he put the
Rejoice
man on
with
his
him,
own donkey,
and be glad
brought
with
him
him
to him, who took care of him. The
Rejoice
next
with
day
her,
he took
and
out
rejoice.
2 denarii and gave
All
them
who
to the
mourn over
innkeeper.
her.
Look after
You may
me.
nurse and be
When I
satisfied.
return, I will
So
converse you with any
you may
mixing
drink
you may
the
have.
light from her glorious bosom. For thus says the Lord,
That's the part.
I will extend prosperity to
So
her
he said 35.
and the wealth of the nations like an
No, I'll read the authors. Which of these 3 do you think was the neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? the expert in the law replied, so had mercy on him. Jesus told him to go to the sidewalks. Because the Pharisees were not known for being very merciful. You didn't obey the law, you picked up, picked something up on the Sabbath, yeah, that's work, you know, they're always picking out as they're doing this.
Wow, and so that's.
Again, the whole thing here is,
It is.
be merciful.
Here, it's before she was in the neighborhood, she gave birth, before the pagan king.
Well, the priest, he saw the man passed on, he didn't want to.
Who has heard of such a thing? But see,
Very
you know, having one in one day, is
Don't
that
get lost, and the Levite, the one who was.
There's one of the
As
pieces.
soon as Zion was invaded,
To show that these people are supposed to be showing mercy, and they don't.
back to the
Point, and the Levite is in charge of the whole sanctuary,
reject you.
all the different workings of the sanctuary.
Have said
The
the
pastor, the pastor, from Aaron, all of Aaron's, they had descendants, so we're in charge of the incense burning, keeping the eternal light on, the Levites.
Nuisance and examples.
Well, Palmer comes, but right, because Palmer probably would have. You know,
Sure, it's a-
Indicating his
Yeah.
people and
they thought
putting down
these,
his enemies.
the priest and the Levite, and like
And found
the Pharisees, say what else
is
is court and everybody else was.
Well, I got stuck back.
The Samaritan,
She gave birth.
who the
before she
Jews
was
hated.
hated, so I didn't know.
Me too.
I just have to watch that. Yeah, I hear you.
It's about, it's.
I know there's something in there that I'm supposed to understand that I'm not
But
getting.
he's the one, now they didn't say.
Because I guess I'm doing my own interpretation.
I don't
So
think that's
shall
true.
shall a land be born hate, they shall a nation be delivered.
He's the one that.
So
Well, that, you know, it can't be.
we have later and giving birth and delivering a son
He's the one.
is about land.
A man was going down
I
to
think,
Jerusalem
and,
when he was attacked by robbers.
right?
They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead.
Yeah.
The priest had to go by and
Well,
say,
that's
no,
what I
and he
was asking
saw the
for.
hands and went on the other
What's
side.
underneath this?
I like it. You see that?
Jesus is born.
Somebody attacks someone and I'm getting out of here, I'm not gonna be a witness to this. I don't wanna get, involved with it.
So I think.
And then soon,
Mary,
when he came to the place.
Find a place to stay in the state side, because they have no room in
And
the
I
end.
don't wanna get, not my
Figure out
problem.
how uncomfortable that had to be. So I.
No.
She's
They
riding
saw
on
him
this
lying
donkey or whatever.
And then
Over all those miles, I mean, I don't know how comfortable that could have been, those people, but what do I say, it's a liberal thing.
with his money or whatever.
So. Here the joy is
Sky Lane.
that we
Yeah,
are
finished it.
Jerusalem is
Half dead.
nourished from the
on the
consoling,
other side
and
of
you
it.
have everything from the glorious bosom,
They did
consolation, everything.
No, don't touch, right,
You're
right,
satisfied.
because
Well, I thought about the water
it's
at the.
dead and you touch it and then you're on line too, then you have to.
This I will give you water that will forever quench your thirst. So that's where I'm.
But he went
throwing
down
that in
and
there.
bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and then he put the man on his own donkey, so his team has to walk. Brought him to an
I
inn.
feel like there's
He took
something
care
enough
for
for
the
the city of
night,
Washington
the next day. The next day he took.
that Jerusalem isn't okay.
He took care of all that.
Maybe.
He used his wine, his oil, his donkey. Booked the room in the inn, his money, and what money, if this doesn't cover it, I'll reimburse you. He's being very generous, merciful.
My Bible, on my explanation at the bottom, it says, God will not leave his work of national restoration unfinished. In his image of birth, God shows that he will accomplish what he has promised.
Everyone is.
It is unstoppable, the
Right.
birth of a
With your
baby.
neighbor.
And once the baby's born and the pain is over, joy begins.
And that is.
Mhm,
Slow it down with medication.
mhm.
And you can also induce it with
He
medication.
wanted to, the Pharisee wanted to justify, so he asked Jesus, and who was my neighbor?
What's
That's
happening
supposed to love.
is that it's unstoppable. Something's
Yeah,
unstoppable.
but
Like,
Right.
force even on your
That's
enemies.
Vindication.
Great.
I'm going back to the headline here, which is cheating.
Alright.
But,
Yeah.
retribution to the enemies, that's unstoppable. He
wasn't
has
in-
stuff, retribution and then the nourishment of the.
He didn't, he doesn't
He's
know.
also saying that we are hear the word of the Lord, that go humble his word.
That's what he sees.
Your own people who hate
I'll
you
help us here.
and exclude you because of my name have said, let the Lord be glorified, that we may see your joy, yet they will be put to shame. So he's saying that, yeah, you will be vindicated.
He
because
is
I will
showing
vindicate. That's what I'm hearing.
Mercy.
They will be put to shame.
Then these are the.
Your belief will
Yeah.
sustain you.
So the people.
Well, they should.
Are within.
They're the leader.
This entry.
Yeah, they're the ones.
It's Zion and Jerusalem.
Jesus is trying to say, everyone is important.
So people within Zion are rejecting that, the believers, is that right?
That's how I'm taking.
It's the other way around,
They're kind of taunting them. It sounds like they're taunting them.
maybe the priest was one that got killed and
Yeah.
robbed, yeah,
Well, what happened?
yeah, but a bit of
Or from the city.
poor man.
It's a challenge, I think.
Well,
And before that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, that
Just, well,
Me.
yeah.
People who are rejection of the word.
It's a no, man is not.
And they're saying,
Anything.
I think this is it.
We don't know
But
if
the
the
Lord
Jew,
glorifies
Gentile,
that we
British
see
or
your joy. They're
whatever.
challenging
Stripped them
you
of the
with
stuff.
huh?
So I
That's a
think
challenge.
But they beat him
Yeah,
up.
and God's saying, I'm going to vindicate you. I'm going to show
Yeah,
you.
and
That's how
those,
I take that.
those who are throwing down the challenge.
so
are
what are
gonna
the
be put to
different
shame.
hurdles that?
Right,
Right. That's what I do, and that's how I do
Around,
it.
like you said, you're twisted, but I don't know.
And when the Lord is, this is powerful, repaying his enemies all they
Fast
deserve.
it, like you said, supposing they saw a priest throw sugar on the ground, beat up. And they said, he just said,
See, I'm checking with it. He said, so Isaiah 66, the last chapter of Isaiah. is a
Right.
clue.
you don't,
So,
He doesn't have any jewelry.
no.
Gold.
it's a clue that is it for all believers? It's not just,
You're up,
it's not just a single.
anything to do with the pain.
It's for all believers. And some are
He could have
within.
been, he could have been,
Challenge.
could have been,
Or is it?
but they don't wanna, they don't wanna be.
Well, your own people hate you and reject you for my name's sake, okay, you're being rejected because of our belief. And they've said, prove it, let so we might see your joy, approval of your.
Well, just like when Jesus was on earth, when everybody wanted a sign, they wanted signs from him, and he said, you need a sign to believe. Like, people then would, same thing, they wanted a sign.
Yeah.
And even when he did the signs, they didn't catch on, they still didn't catch on.
Yeah,
They don't. I mean, it's inconceivable for things he was able to do.
He said,
Humanly,
you have mercy.
we look at it and like, oh, how are they gonna do that? So I understand people's skepticism.
Certainly learn. Lesson learned.
The voice of the Lord dealing retribution to his enemies, so these were, he's put to shame.
Yeah,
Those,
they don't,
that's
they,
where the retribution.
she turned around.
Well, listen what it says here.
He said.
It says, we are just as negligent
The answers.
in feeding the hungry, working for justice, obeying God's word, and taking up his causes.
Right.
Make sure you are among those who will be richly blessed. So it's just saying our humanness, that, because there are times that we are in the other crowd children.
That's in the old.
Because of what we're not.
Yes,
And it,
or being signs of something that is being done.
that we should be. He's trying to
Hopeful
teach.
about.
Pharisee, about and talking about and who is like.
Yeah.
Okay, we have an answer. What's the answer?
But I'm the answer. Well, the
Well,
answer
like you
is
said, I like.
this business about
mentioned
before she
supposedly
was
some,
in
she, the priest is the Burma.
People were painting,
Wouldn't know
she just.
what do you think?
You would think, yeah.
was
But
heard of
then
such
you
a
may
thing,
not
as
have
such things.
someone
And
else,
people,
because he's moving out of place. and so-
I gotta go to this, I don't.
Oh, that's a nice to want to from the temple.
And what does it mean that she was in
Well,
labor?
You don't know.
Before she was in labor, she gave birth. Well,
But I think that.
when she said, I'll
She
do it.
was selected by the,
And-
by the,
Yeah.
and she said she would do it.
Mhm.
He does need
And
to
before
stay
painting,
quiet,
she's
public.
son, so before
No.
any of it
We
happened.
do that, so it's a, you got
Yes.
conscious,
Yes,
yes,
I
my
think that-
name
I
is
think
Phil
maybe
Smith,
that's
I
what-
come from
that's
Jericho,
what-
nothing.
So
You get no
it's the
identity,
whole of Isaiah.
and at that,
All of his.
priest can be I find. Samaritan stuff. He has the compassion, he is merciful. He doesn't know Jack.
They're in exile, and this is a very comfort, so.
No, we take care of our own, we take care of others.
And the new nation, that comes, right?
Comfort him, it's like, that can't say that.
The other thing is the extent of.
And the
care
metaphor used
he
is the
went
breast.
Yes.
Yeah.
through. Just not.
Oh, here's a Band-Aid, right. I'll fix it, but I have an appointment down in Oshkosh, I don't get to, overnight.
Here, right there, you know. Okay.
Doesn't say when her labor is done.
He takes it to the, and took care of me
No land
the
for
next
that.
day.
So land, and they shall maybe yet as old as Zion was in labor. She delivered her children.
Continue on taking.
Right.
So.
He gave him money to do that, to feed him and pay for the inn room, whatever.
Shall I, the one who
And medical help. All reimbursements for any extra expense you might have. They tend to pretty much like. Weeks worth. You know?
And since it's like that, maybe
So Zion is
just
the.
take care of for hope.
You follow through.
Indicate Zion, they're in exile.
Because they were in Egypt, remember they were in Egypt at that point. They were in Egypt for hundreds of years.
For the first time. You kind of just.
So.
You do read it on that man.
I think that was a good, pick up on your part to say that.
So what more is going on here?
Sometimes the guys got it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. They did, then gave him another little card.
He's a land, country, and nation.
Plainly.
And then the feeding metaphor, rejoice with Jews and glad.
I know that story, but what's the other story?
Yeah, the story
That you
is,
may rest and be satisfied, soul and rest, that you
probably different with
the life.
that's what story is intended to. The story I'm telling is. Well, what was we like, what are the priests thinking about? We're just saying, I don't want to get involved. Because, yeah, but it's.
You have
Body that.
Right, so I bleed it, you can't have blood, that's, I'm sure. Get it. Well, you're considered unclean.
Maybe so that would be, Isaiah's prophetic view of what would come. Yeah. Yeah.
That's written about the priest, yeah. That's
the name of the Messiah.
Yeah, that.
Well, rejoice greatly. Rejoice with her children. All people mourn. So we're going to mourn over her, meaning those who are sad to be in exile, or sad.
Unfortunately, I can bring it to today, see what's going on there, at the war. But Israel is lost.
Yeah.
There has always been this constant.
There are two generic, 2 days wait.
Conflict. I don't know how, I guess my points on. So big.
That was a lot of money.
I guess I don't know. Like, why are we still fighting?
There's
over
2
this?
days wait.
It was
Homeland, and it was certainly more And then not want to be cut. So like, yeah, there's not what's right, they don't just do outbound. They're always in gotta go from.
Over and beyond.
Yeah, it's just hard for me to understand.
So, yes. So. But at the end here about it, the Lord says he's gonna give prosperity to her like a river, that is Jerusalem, Messiah, right? The wills of the nations.
Yeah, what does the
And
wire?
you shall mercy.
So then I'm thinking it's going out, I don't think it's going out as well, like it's.
Real mercy and
Out further than-
Well, then prosperity. And I have a nation, something like
Because Jesus said to go out to the world, from the beginning, which is the Jews, they were just talking to. Then he said,
More than just-
then he went to the playground,
They-
that's how I'm thinking is starting to go out.
To the next town or wherever.
Right, taken to
You're
the.
done.
So it's not just the extra wrestling, it's the whole child nurse
Right,
Then now you're, you're taking responsibility.
comfort in any way, in any way.
All the needs were pressure.
I feel like we're missing something.
and what does the Lord require of you?
One of these, I
Just
chapter
to
2,
love
says
mercy
he
and
has
to
been
walk humbly
asked
after
the
God.
students to write down all their questions, and they couldn't think of it.
Just
Gave them.
to love mercy.
Yeah,
That's it. And to walk humbly with the God. He was putting his faith,
I don't, fortunately, international.
the Samaritan. Was being a
Yeah.
character. I don't forget that. A Samaritan kid with a ministry of rejection. And everything, they were captured and one sent to his country, and I think the rejection, Jew were just here. And then when
At the beginning,
get to marry.
I don't know, I can't feel, well,
And then
okay.
children were like half breeds,
Word of the Lord.
and the Jews things, they, the German people were seen and
Reject you for
They
my
believe.
name's sake of sin,
like,
but the one be glorified, so that we may see the
she was
joy.
Samaritan,
But it is they who shall be punished. So the people who are challenging the believers are, and we're giving this, dare really let the Lord be glorified, so you can see how joyful.
we're probably missing a lot.
Listen, you said, we're missing a lot, we just said the same thing over here.
Okay, we're in tune.
I feel like.
Remember, they studied these for years, this is.
I know, we got a half an hour.
There you go, okay?
Well, we dug and we found a lot of dirt.
I know you, Melissa, you was under those weeds.
I'm in the weeds, all right.
Oh. Good Samaritan.
I think this is a prophetic about
Well, I like this.
Jesus. I do. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know
one of
why
my
it is.
favorites.
Yeah,
I
I
like
could
the
be
prodigal son.
really wet. Is that what's going on
Really,
underneath?
it's
I
a
don't.
piece of both of them, that really.
I think it's, I think you're right.
Or it's just been part of the metaphor.
It's some,
It's the reject. Jesus.
or people didn't want to get involved.
That's sure.
So,
Cognizant of that.
Salvation.
You can get involved to your level. You can't go doing that.
Yeah,
I'm a mother right now, but this is what we're gonna do.
And I think this part is to this.
Knife in a restaurant, somebody choking and stuff.
Before she goes into labor, she gets pregnant. She was
I mean,
selected.
Where's the
I was
steak?
trained-
I think
I was
that's how I'm
trained to
doing
do
that,
that.
yeah.
I'm not gonna do that
what else
because
could it be?
I don't feel I'm capable of doing it. But if you stay within, you know,
Before the veins come.
on an extra doing the chest compressions,
yeah,
and something happens, a broken rib or whatever.
It's not your
you're under
Yeah.
Samaritan.
good Samaritan. So even our laws, you know,
It would be hard for me.
good Samaritan.
But it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Joe.
Okay, Rick's back.
I mean, wait.
Well, we can tell Pastor Rick that we only had 30 minutes, he said here, it's okay.
I like that.
I thought it was pretty good.
That's what's going on here.
That's turning the gem a little.
A little too far.
That's an interesting facet.
Yeah. That kaleidoscope, yeah, I got it.
Jesus, what else?
Anything else?
When they said stoners and sinners, of course, being in the sixties, I was thinking stoners. That's
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking, Woodstock and sinners. And then I said, oh, no, stoners in the Bible. I bring myself back.
Why did they not render help? Why did this guy do way above and beyond? What was this?
Motivation.
reason?
Well, supposedly.
Yeah, I mean, was he guilty? of
So if
something?
we're talking.
Or maybe someone in his family had long period of time, someone helped him out.
No, they're not in Jerusalem, but Jerusalem is
Return the favor.
that for what they want.
You know,
Yeah, to be back and, you know, and
If he had lots of money, why didn't he leave more?
And remember, their temple at that time was in a
Why
certain
didn't
spot,
he leave more?
yeah.
but then afterwards,
Days
they carried.
I'm just saying, I'm saying, well,
That's why now, it's like we are the our temples ourselves.
More than enough to,
We are our own temple.
cover this.
yeah, cover this,
Doesn't take much care.
I
right?
was very happy. I think you brought it on the subject today.
Probably more than enough.
As well.
they know I've talked about doing that myself.
But I think, you know, my friend, I have a friend that's going.
Well, no, but he's up, he's, you know, we're going to get up and go someone. Guess what I
Yeah.
believe? You don't want to hear the story.
Would you like to start the group? The man is drowning, he's drowning. You're asking a drowning person
Yeah,
instead of talking, you know what I'm saying?
But I.
What's that?
She
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I believe you would, yeah.
And I think it's just having.
3 more minutes,
Okay.
keep turning.
Yeah.
We've heard every facet we know.
Here, sir, I have a, I don't know if it's a complaint, but it's a statement. You've had years at this, and we've had the 30 minutes crash course. I'm having a problem.
No, you've studied the book of Isaiah, first Isaiah, second Isaiah. You know the history. of the
Not as much as you, I'm not, don't have your
Reason
expertise.
we know they're.
True, but, I just think that doesn't matter when it comes to insights. in
And
scripture.
different insight.
Different
Right.
insights.
But that's why Bible study is so good.
Yeah,
Right.
so some of us will bring, let's say, more theological insight, yeah, I've had a lot more training there. However, it's also about personal experience, as a woman, what do you bring to the text from your own perspective, what do you bring to the text, that we know that makes a huge difference. Why is it that I never discovered what Joanne
Is
did?
it that the woman, you.
That's because
She's a woman.
she's a woman. I think
Right, but-
there's some part of
Yes.
that, where someone else would have been around the table and said, well, who was paying the bills?
Yes.
Especially if it's someone at home paying the bills, they'd say, I wanna know how to slice the oxen, right?
Right.
I never asked that question, so we bring our own experiences, we bring other aspects to the tradition. Right, some of us will grow up Lutheran, so we'll ask Lutheran questions, others grew up Methodist or something else, and we're Catholic, and we just bring completely different frames of reference to the text. We're meant to be dancing. And the dancing is not necessarily the one that's had professional training. In fact, often the professional training skews you in a certain corner, and you won't see that, you won't turn the gem certain ways. You just won't.
Well, if they're playing the Watusi, you have to dance like the Watusi.
Oh,
Whatever it
remember.
is.
I just saw that old film. Do you remember the old Watusi films?
No.
They were amazing. I remember these as a kid. And I went in Rwanda. I went to visit the president's home, former president's home. And they played all these old movies like Tarzan. But they had ones where they called the Watusi, which were from Rwanda. The Watusi were the Tutsi.
Yeah, Tutsi.
The Watusi means the plural, you know, the Tutsi people.
Mhm.
And they were all doing the Tutsi dances, and they were known in those films, true, for their high jump.
Wow.
They could just stand and.
The twist, the chubby checker, okay.
That's something
And then the
like-
one
That's not the
going,
Watusi.
the one going into the
He
pool.
stole that, he stole that, but no African dances like chubby checker. That's just the fact.
The one going under the pole, remember that? How low? can you go?
Okay, I think we've moved on from the text, let's get back, so let's start. Let's start and, let's start with Isaiah.
Hmm.
What did you discover?
Who we on that? Okay, we know the children of Israel are in exile.
Yeah.
And this is the comfort section of Isaiah.
Right,
I know that because I've been to Bible study
there you go.
and I wrote it down.
And it's in her notes.
Where is that?
It starts at 40.
That's right. Read that, read the 40, that's great.
I should have gone back and read 40. Okay, 40, 40.
So up to this point, Isaiah is, you guys are gonna be dragged off in exile, God's gonna punish you, blah, 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 up to 39.
Now I'll see here.
40 is written years and years and years later.
It is
Right.
the Messiah.
Additionally, when they're in, I don't even think there's a third Isaiah, but they're now in Babylon and he's trying to comfort his people. And then, of course, he takes them back. So what's he saying?
That's exactly what he says. Comfort, oh comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that she has served her term, that her penalty is paid, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins.
So what's the metaphor there?
She suffered, a woman who suffered, or a people who suffered, that's it, that's.
In captivity.
She's been in jail, she's been in jail.
I think that's right.
And so the bail money is coming in.
And actually, the judge is saying, maybe I demanded too much.
I did double and he probably only deserved single or
Right.
1.5.
So it's a legal metaphor to start with, which makes then 66 kind of interesting. We were from a legal metaphor to something very, I mean, it is comforting when you get a letter from the IRS saying, oops, we made a mistake. We owe you money. You go, that's comforting. But that's not,
When's that gonna happen?
yeah, that's not 66. That's more 40. 40 is illegal.
40, yeah.
Okay, what else did you find as you kept turning the stone?
We thought there was reference to the birth of Jesus, to a son coming. We didn't really understand, but when you said it from a woman's standpoint, one would understand. There's verses that say, before she was in labor, she gave birth. Before her pain came upon her, she delivered a son. Who had heard such a thing, who has seen such things? Shall a land be born in one day? Shall a nation be delivered in one moment? We thought about Mary being selected, or any pregnant woman. Say, you're thinking about the birth before you ever have labor. You're thinking about that child before you ever have that child.
Planning on it.
Yeah, so to me, this is about the relief that's coming for Jerusalem through the Son of God. That's
So,
sticking my head right out there.
so he's really, and of course, the New Testament will pull from this.
Mhm.
We'll make that connection too, right? So it's interesting. I think you're pulling there correctly. And again, something where as a man, I'd be more limited. This is a very powerful metaphor.
We didn't get to it right away. We read it a few times before we got to that point. And that was hard.
Okay, so what was hard about it as you were turning?
I wasn't at first thinking it was about Mary. But then I thought, yeah, we thought about the angel coming to Mary and her accepting the responsibility or the more than responsibility. It was a joy, it was a privilege. We thought about that, but it took me a while to get there. It wasn't there right away.
I struggled with that because on one hand, it says, oh, you who are going back, it's tough. You're going back and things haven't been rebuilt. And yeah, it's hard, like labor. That's where I think he's going. It's like labor pains. Can you build a city in one day? Rome wasn't built in a day, is what they'd say today. And the answer is no, but then he seems to contradict that.
And Karen being a labor delivery nurse, she brought her reality and literal, yeah, so.
I saw her swimsuit.
Yeah, she was, so I can't imagine that.
So it doesn't he say in there, I know no one's ever heard of this, but that's what's gonna happen.
Pretty much, shall I, as soon as Zion was in labor, she delivered her children. Shall I open the womb and not deliver, says the Lord? Shall I, the one who delivers, shut the womb, says your God? And that's kind of the unbelievable, right? I can do it all, so.
So there's something miraculous about the birth here of Jerusalem. That's the way I took it, and that it's not like you had, first of all, I thought, oh, the exile would be the pains, the contractions. But he's saying, no. I'm just doing a miracle here. I'm just creating, right? Which we know he did with Cyrus, right? Cyrus
Yeah.
just comes out of the blue and says, okay, I'm gonna send you guys back. And he conquered the Babylonians and so it's not like this was a normal birthing process. That's the way I took it. It just,
So at the beginning of this section, we weren't sure exactly about this. It sounds like there are people who are challenging the believers and saying, let the Lord be glorified so that we may see your joy. So are these part of the children of Israel in exile, or are they?
this, by 66, I think they're back. They're back in Jerusalem.
Okay.
So I took that, we know that member from some of the Old Testament books that we read, the prophets. They came back and it was not all that great. So some are going, is this it? I mean, is this what we're waiting for?
Yeah, cause it's saying the temple, cause the temple at that point was in one spot. So yeah, no, I didn't think about that, Peter said that.
It's not glorious. It's a homecoming. You know, I always think about my grandmother who went back to Sweden. You know, she emigrated when she was 16. She went back when she was 73. She was terribly disappointed. It wasn't how she imagined it. You know, I was thrilled. Wow, big Sweden, Stockholm, big city, but that's not how she remembered it. That's not, and so their expectations are devastated here. And so there's that, how do I comfort them to say, I'm gonna take care of you.
And it says your own people who hate you and reject you for my name's sake. So is that the people there who were still there and then the people come back
I
and?
think it's both, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, I think there are counter voices.
mhm.
You can almost hear some priest going, you know, God is redeeming God's people. Look, we're back in Jerusalem. Isn't this amazing? And they're going, yeah.
And we stayed and you left. That would be another.
Well,
Yes,
that's right. Yeah, we've been here the whole
So
time.
we've been here.
Right.
Where have you
Where
been?
have you been?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, let the Lord be glorified so that we may see your joy. Yeah, show us.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. Very interesting. Talking about the music, I just keep hearing the Messiah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Rejoice, rejoice. There's a rejoice verse, there's a comfort, ye my people. That's probably 40.
I think that's 40. It doesn't go into the female metaphor.
All right.
Which is what struck me is that because it's different than 40
Mhm.
and gets a little bit more real.
Mhm.
How does he use then the metaphor? Is it just about breastfeeding?
No, of course not. It's about consolation. It's about all kind of wealth and prosperity and building,
Taking care of.
comforting. Yeah, everything's taken care of.
I think it moves from a child metaphor to an adult metaphor. The comfort is not just breastfeeding.
Mhm.
When he says, he's gonna take delight, it's like, oh, glorious breast, but you don't say that to a mother who's breastfeeding a child. The child doesn't say, oh, what glorious breast. That's a male, adult male. So God is using the whole female experience of giving birth, taking care of the child. I didn't know that word before, dandling.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know.
sure.
I said
Yeah.
dandled, yeah.
Yeah.
Handle on
Do you,
the.
is that a name?
Yeah,
Mm,
sure.
handling on the-
Put them on your.
You put them on
Yeah,
your.
and you dandle.
Dandle.
But not dandle.
So,
Yes.
the reader Sunday came up to me, Linda. And she said, I had to look up that word dandle.
Oh.
And she says, what does it mean? I went, well, I mean, I didn't know, I don't think I ever heard, or it didn't.
Yeah.
So another example of a mother would have known that, because maybe there was a time where she dandled.
Sure.
Had you ever heard that word
Yes, I
dandle?
did. Yeah.
But had Ray?
Oh,
Men.
Men.
though we did that, but we didn't know what.
Sure, you did do it.
We,
Sure.
Bounce, I would say you bounce your child on your knee. I would have never said dandled.
I'm not sure I would have said it either, but I knew the word.
Okay, there you go.
I know.
So it's a taking care from birth. I think there is, I went to the natural birth metaphor and tried to play with that. That was enjoyable for me. But it's dandling the child even, not just feeding the child, but playing with the child, enjoying the child. And I think it goes on to being attractive to adult males, all being attracted to Jerusalem,
Okay.
right? That this is the place where you will be dandled, you will be fed, there's abundance of,
Relationship.
right, of life, comfort. It's more than comfort.
Yeah.
It's to say, and that was my disappointment a little bit by the translation of comfort. Is the child comforted, the child with breastfeeding? Yes, but it's more than that.
Well, and there's right
It's
before
nourishment.
that, prosperity.
It's nurture, but
Prosperity.
it's also play. I think a child's playing as well as they're being nourished, as well as they're being comforted. I mean, it's a pretty rich experience.
I think it's a holistic thing.
Yeah, it is.
It goes, it's all the, physical, mental, it's all of it.
So pretty bold for a community too, the Jews, who fought so hard not to use female metaphors for God. Because all the nature gods of Baal were all female gods. So this is almost more of a pagan, image there. That's what the father God, not that it was male for Jews, it was just not female. All right. So a good dance?
I think we did a good job.
Okay, all right.
Hard.
But fun, this is,
It
what
was fun.
this is,
It was fun.
so you put it in historical context, you turn it about your own experiences, especially if you've got rich experiences with childbirth and that's why I brought in Nina, because that became like a big deal for her, and just the mechanics of what happens when a child lies on a mother's chest, both to the mother and to the child.
The bonding, it's that bonding that's.
See, I've always called it bonding. I didn't know about the serotonin. I didn't know the chemistry
Yeah,
behind
the hormones, yes.
Yeah.
what all kicks into effect.
Oh, man, your uterus contracts.
And the uterus does something too with the child. It leaves certain chemicals on the child to protect the child, where you don't get that with a C-section. And I mean, there's just these amazing things.
The
And I
body
think
is a miracle.
the Isaiah, I think, is pulling a lot of that to say to the exile student that don't be depressed. God's gonna take care of you. All right. Good Samaritan.
Good Samaritan. Okay, everybody knows the story.
That's the problem.
That's the
That's the
problem.
problem.
Okay, the man, we don't have any information about who he was. He was robbed and stripped of his identity. We don't know anything about him. He was left unconscious.
So is that important?
Yes,
Yes,
very.
because a priest comes by, sees him, and goes on the other side of the road, ignores him. Doesn't want to get involved, doesn't want to touch. He sees the man on the ground
Why not touch?
because it would be unclean. The priest would be unclean if he touched him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to get involved, continues on his way. Now, this road is a very dangerous road too. For all travelers that go on it, because they're always being robbed and eaten up, money from thieves. So then, okay, the priest.
By the way, Martin Luther King Jr., when he would teach on this, said, first lesson from, is to fix the road. Would you put some security on the road? I mean, you're right.
Right,
We can't just keep having people going down the road and being
And getting
robbed
robbed,
and
right.
expecting a good Samaritan to come. Government needs to fix the road. That was kind
Yeah.
of funny, but that is not the point. of the story. That's not how, that's not why.
We didn't even get there.
Yeah,
We didn't
but
know.
that was his
No.
addition.
then a Levite comes by, same reaction,
Okay.
and we don't know, these are men with
Status.
Vital.
titles.
Was the Levite the priest too? Were they the priestly?
They
Well,
were
they
the
were, weren't they?
Gotta leave it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
The
Prepare the
priestly
temple,
tribe.
kind of-
Now, they didn't just work in the temple, right? They'd all go home. I can't remember the amount of time, but you spend, let's say, 3 weeks away and then 1 week service, so you had Levite towns. So everybody is in the priesthood,
Right.
and then you'd have your week to go,
And
so, but you could have wives and families, property and.
Right, but again, he didn't wanna touch, he didn't wanna get involved, didn't wanna touch the body and become impure himself. Now a Samaritan comes by, that's an enemy of the Israelis. And they're looked down upon, so this is the lowly character in this story, as far as we know. He's the one that has compassion. He goes and takes care of this guy. He binds him up. He brings him to an inn. He takes care of him overnight. He leaves money the next day for further care for this person. And he promises the innkeeper, I'll pay you whatever else is needed that you used to take care of this man. Where is this compassion coming from? This Samaritan that's looked down, that's hated by the Jews. He's on this road too. He's in danger of being identified and robbed, and same thing happening to him. He's the one with the mercy. The other two, who should have mercy, that know all about God's laws and rules and regulations, don't give a crap.
That's wow.
Yeah,
We thought it was important that the body couldn't be identified by clothing,
right.
because otherwise, if it was a priest.
Would the priest have
priest
even
have
stopped?
found out.
Would he have even? What
If
if
it
he
had
might-
been a major donor.
Oh, there's that.
Well, no, that's,
It's true.
it's part of what you're saying,
Yeah.
is would I have been willing to risk being unclean, right, which is God's law,
Right,
right? It's not just my personal feeling, it's God's law. I want to make myself unclean. Would I have trumped that God's law if it had been my wife?
Right.
Probably would have,
Yeah.
right? Would I have trumped it if it had been my son? Probably. How about my neighbor?
and
that's
that's the cuts.
So which neighbor? Now, I'm choosing between neighbors. I'll help this neighbor, I won't help the other one,
Right,
especially if it's an anonymous person on the
and it
road.
was, I knew nothing about this.
Yeah, so I'll break God's law. For the right person.
For the right person.
Did the Samaritans show up anywhere else in that chapter? To think about the pearls,
That's that same person, the same Samaritan who stopped.
not the, but Samaritans,
Another Samaritan.
any Samaritans.
Is that
By
where
the
the
well,
one
the
is?
woman, Samaritan woman by the well.
Okay, we got the Samaritan woman. What chapter is that?
You're asking me.
That's really scary, woman.
Woman,
Yeah.
this all
That's a
took
great
place
story.
after Jesus sent out the signal.
So, yeah, because you've got, she's Samaritan and she's a woman, you've got all the negatives there.
Yeah.
Shows up at
Strikes
the well
again.
at noon, which
And
is.
she has a
on
bad
time.
reputation
Yeah.
as well, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's why she's at the
She
well at
has
noon.
Five
because of-
husbands and living with or whatever,
So
yeah.
you got woes to the unrepentant cities. Woe to you, Chorazin, woe to you, Bethesda, Jewish cities, if the deeds of power had been done and you had been done in Tyre and Sidon. Ooh. So who's living in Tyre and Sidon? You know, you also have a Samaritan village that refuses to receive Jesus in chapter 9.
Oh, I need, okay, yeah.
So that's interesting because the Samaritans don't come off well in that story.
No.
It comes off better here. So why the change? He's just been rejected in chapter 9. And that's the pearls that he's tying together. So if I'm hearing Luke tell orally these stories, he's stringing them out to put. He's just told me the story of the Samaritan towns that rejected Jesus. So I'm going, of course they did, you know. Samaritans wouldn't know a good thing if they saw it. And now there's this curveball.
Yeah.
Man, Samaritans maybe understood love of neighbor better than our.
They have a
churches.
Jewish background, the Samaritans, they were
That's the
mixed with
problem.
other things, I know, that's why the Jews looked down at them,
That's the problem.
but they, yeah. But he definitely was more merciful, and Jesus said, follow his example, do likewise. He said to the expert in law.
So when the 70 are sent out, are they sent to Samaritan towns?
All over.
It's sent all over.
Sent
There's
all
no-
over?
There were no boundaries.
So is this just the preliminaries to include the Gentiles in this whole story?
There you go.
Mhm.
So he's preparing us
Mhm.
for the Great Commission,
Yeah,
basically.
okay.
Good news is not just for the Jews alone.
Right,
Right, now that in Luke, you know, with Luke Acts really comes out in Acts. More than it comes out in Luke, right? That the mission was spread from Judea to Samaria.
Right, to be out of the-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's already preparing us for his storytelling. Just like, again, we talked about this prolepsis, the gun in the drawer, you know, or the lightning at the beginning of the film, right? You know, oh, this is not gonna go well. The kids are hiding in the barn and you're hearing dun, 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 dun. Well, you know,
Yeah.
okay? It's not gonna end well. But here he's preparing you with some of these stories for what's gonna unfold as far as the mission of Jesus.
Yes, so I have a question, I just realized is, when we talk about the Levites of the 12 tribes and priests, I'm thinking to myself, rabbi, I'm not thinking priest, because it's a Jewish religion, so I guess I'm confused now, because up until now, it never hit me about Levites being priests, if it's from the.
A rabbi's a teacher, priests were not teachers, were usually a part of
Okay.
the sacrificial system. You know, you think, you know, the chosen, again, you see this really well. You've got 1 million people in Jerusalem, million. For Passover, and they all have to offer up sacrifices. So within a couple day period, you gotta kill and slaughter 1,000 animals. Now, I've only participated in the slaughter, I think it was 30, 40 chickens at one time, you know, which was ridiculous, which is really ridiculous, really ridiculous. So the blood, the smells everywhere, you can think of just the personnel you would need, the organization you would need to pull off 1,000 dead animals, to do that well. To do that in an organized fashion and receive the animals, they had to be spotless.
And they also bought them, where they went to the marketplace and actually purchased them.
So it's a massive system that had to pull off. Just Passover, let alone all the other feasts and festivals, so yeah, those are the Levites who took.
But that's what, that just, for the first time I had that question, I was, when.
Because Jesus is called
the Lamb of God.
rabbi.
Right, and then, but when I heard priest, something, and I didn't know there was priests in the Jewish religion, that's why I started to have a little issue.
And that's very important. So the whole priesthood, the understanding of priesthood, the language of priesthood, Roman Catholics take that from the Old Testament, from that idea of who stands between God and the people. And that's what the priest's role was in offering sacrifices. Protestants, we went another direction and said, oh, God has called us all to be priests,
Yes.
to stand between our vocations and people. And therefore, we'll call our pastors ministers. But everybody's a priest, so it's just a different vision of how do you see that?
The deal was, there was a daily morning and evening sacrifice. Was that just an animal morning and evening that they did, or did everybody who went to the temple have to do that?
Great question. I wanna say no, but I don't know. Seems like a lot of, I do think there were pro forma sacrifices, so like on Passover, everybody had to bring. There were also times during the year, let's say I'm celebrating my anniversary and I, you know, bring.
Celebrate.
I bring the meat and I just, we're, you know, like here, I would say, you know, I'd barbecue at home. But here you get God's blessing on it, the priest, you know, but then they take part of that barbecue and they keep it, right? So that's, so they participate in the festivities, but they also participate in like I don't know if it was 10%, whatever it was, they got part of the meat. And that's how the Levites were sustained.
Right.
Yeah, so there were constant sacrificing all the time, if that's your point, yes. But then there were the special sacrificial days that were more, you had to. I mean, this is, you know.
This came from a Bible study we did together on Zoom one. And the lady laid out the chapters, and I believe it was Matthew who said Jesus went to the cross at 9 AM. And Luke, maybe I forget who, maybe Mark, I don't know, said it, that 3 o'clock is when he died.
Yeah.
And those were the times of the morning and evening.
Giving sacrifice. And they're thinking, the storytellers are thinking
Yeah,
that. So then, of course, the question becomes, did he really die at that time? Or is the storyteller trying to tell us something about the sacrificial system and Jesus? Is it more of a theological point he's trying to make? Or was it exactly at that time? And it could have been a half an hour off, but he's going, oh, this is too good. Jesus is the sacrificial lamb, and it is the morning evening sacrifice, so that it could be that way, right? All right, good. Well, thank you. We turned the gem a little bit. This is what we can do here, we can't do in worship. Just can't spend the time turning the gem, so that's enjoyable. Let's, next, so in August, what did we say, August 7th or
I
something?
think you said the 7th.
Yeah, the first Thursday in August, then we'll start with part 2, which kind of is
And which chapters will we read? First?
3. We always go 3 unless this one was 2 only because it was the end
Last two.
of in part 1. I didn't want to start.
You have your golf socks and everything, and your lucky gems to go on the golf course with your son-in-law, cause he's waiting for you.
No, he's gonna come down here. Oh, son-in-law, we'll see. My son wants to come down and play with Ray and me.
Well, I wanna hear the truth now, I wanna hear the story.
I know, well, it'll be
No
interesting, first of all, if he takes me in, and then, of course, then I will feel pressure to do well. On Fridays, I don't feel pressure, but boy, your son-in-law, come
Well,
on.
he's waiting for you.
Yeah,
That, he shot it, He's okay.
I know, that's right, yeah.
That's what he said.
That's what he said, yeah. Good and gracious God, we thank you for the gem of scripture, and we pray that you would keep us in conversation, turning that gem, speaking to us as we turn. Bless us now for the rest of this month. We pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Safe travels.
Yeah, you really need, it's good for you to have a vacation, and I hope you have a really good time.
Thank you.
We will.